Jason, and this is Just Watches. Okay, today we have another watch from Citizen. Now, much like my last review, where Citizen gave us an alternative to the SKX, we have what many consider the Citizen alternative to the Seiko Sarb. Now, before we get into this review, if you're enjoying the contents of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. So this watch is currently available from a number of retailers with prices ranging between $300 and $400. The case is 38mm in diameter. It's 47mm lug to lug, but the end links do extend past the ends of the case, making the true lug to lug 52mm. It's very thin. It's only 10.5mm thick. And then we have a 19mm lug width opening. Sized up for my 6 3/4 inch wrist, it weighs at 115 grams on the stock bracelet. Now, the case is very nicely finished with a wide, high polish facet running along the top of the mid case. The lugs are angular, and the high polish chamfer, brush top and brush sides of the case all come together at the tip of the lugs. Now, there is a slight downturn to the lugs, which is going to slightly offset that longer true 52mm lug to lug when you take into consideration the bracelet. It's a shame they didn't use a negative end link on this watch, because that would then reduce that overall lug to lug length. I've never really understood when watch companies make smaller diameter watches but then give them 50+mm lug to lug lengths. That said, this one does wear okay on my 6 3/4 inch wrist on the stock bracelet, but it will wear much better on a strap, because then you are getting that true 47mm lug to lug length. The stock bracelet starts at 19mm before tapering down to 17 and then jumping back up to 19 at the clasp. As if the long solid end links were not insulting enough, they also chose an odd lug width, which at least in the US can make it harder to find aftermarket strap and bracelet options. Fortunately, the bracelet is decent for the price. The articulation of the bracelet against the back of the watch and between the links is both excellent, two factors that will greatly influence the comfort of the bracelet. The links are brushed on top and high polish on the sides, with a double push to point that is signed with Citizen. While the scissor is milled, the clasp itself feels quite thin and cheap, and then only has 2 micro positions. Another glaring issue with this bracelet is that there are no half links, so getting the right size for your wrist might be a gamble. Fortunately, I was able to find a size that works. Speaking of sizing, this watch uses the dreaded pin and collar system. Check out my video guide on that system if you need help sizing it. The screw-in caseback helps provide 100 meters of water resistance. The exhibition caseback also gives a view of the movement with its skeletonized rotor and Geneva striping. How they pulled off an exhibition window and kept this watch under 11mm is very impressive. Now, this watch is powered by the Citizen 9011, which is the Citizen branded version of the Miyota 9015. This is a hacking, hand-winding, 28,800 vibration per hour movement with a 42-hour power reserve and a stated accuracy of -10 to +30 seconds a day. This one also features a quick set date. Now, as you can see, this one's running in spec, gaining about 12 to 13 seconds a day with the dial up, and then about 10 seconds a day with the crown up. The 5mm push-pull crown is unsigned, which is a bit of a bummer considering how nicely signed the much less expensive Citizen Diver we recently reviewed was. The knurling on the crown is pretty fine, and between that and the smaller size of the crown, it can be a bit tricky to wind and operate the watch with. The flat sapphire crystal is almost flush with the bezel. It has been treated with an air coating. The flat crystal was a great choice as it helps preserve the overall thinness of the watch, and then it's really great to see a sapphire crystal used at this price point. The dial is a stunning sunburst blue. In some lights it can appear almost black, but in bright direct light, the blue really pops. At the edge of the dial there are dashes for the minutes. Applied indices mark the hours. These indices are brushed on top and then high polish on sides angling away from that top so they catch light nicely from every direction. There's also a small Lume plot within each index, save for 3 where we have a nicely framed date window. Now, Citizen is applied at 12 and automatic is printed at 6. I really like the lack of text on the dial. The dial is also nicely proportioned and the applied indices are really well finished for this price point. The baton style hands are high polish and then nicely gabled down the center. The minute hand and hour hand are also loomed. The minute hand is long, reaching all the way out to the dashes around the edge of the dial. The high polish second hand is very simple with a counterbalance and is also very long, reaching out to the edge of the dial. Now, as you can see, they used blue lume here, which I'm really glad because it matches that beautiful blue dial. Now, there isn't a ton of surface area for the lume, and it isn't super bright, but it's quite good and lasts a decent amount of time. And here is the watch on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. You can see those long end links do kind of extend past the edges of my wrist, but they do turn down. Just keep that in mind if you have wrists that are about my size or smaller. You might have some overhang, but you could always fix that by putting it on a strap. And then from the side, you can see the watch is very thin and it does wear quite comfortably. So pros and cons, starting with the pros. First, with the discontinuation of the Seiko Sarb, I think Citizen has provided us with an excellent alternative. While I think it lacks some of the Sarb's charm, it has all the same specs and arguably a better movement. Second, the finishing on the case, hands, and indices is fantastic for this price point. Stock pictures of this watch don't do it justice. When I first saw it in person, I was really impressed. For cons, I think the biggest one is this bracelet. There's so many issues here. First, the 19mm lug width will give you less aftermarket strap options. Second, the lack of half links and only 2 micro positions means you might not be able to get a good size. Third, the clasp just feels cheap on this one, which is kind of a bummer. And then finally, those long end links really extend the lug to lug, which to me sorts of defeats the purpose of making a smaller diameter watch, because generally people with smaller wrists are going to be gravitating towards these watches. As for comparables, well, if you could find a deal on one, you could always just go with the Seiko Sarb. However, they're very difficult to find now and have risen in price. Now, Long Island Watch makes the Brookville, which is a great choice and is around the same price point, and they make it in some very fun colorways. For a bit more, you could check out offerings from Orient Star. They have some classic models like the one pictured that are going to be sub 40mm. Finally, for less, you can still pick up the dressier, older style Seiko 5s for around $150 in a ton of different colorways, and these are also going to be sub 40mm size watches. So there you have it. What do you think about this Citizen? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, if you're enjoying the contents of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you like the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. That's all for this time. My name is Jason, and you have been watching Just Watches.